It was a silent morning in a small Indian village nestled between rice fields and tall mango trees. The villagers had begun their day, some already walking towards the river with their cattle, others opening their small shops. But something was different that day. Near the outskirts, under an old banyan tree, a strange sight had caught everyone's attention. A monkey, injured and bleeding, was lying helplessly on the dirt path. But what was more surprising than the monkey's presence was the animal beside him, a medium-sized street dog, sitting alert, guarding the wounded monkey like a soldier on duty. His eyes were full of concern, not aggression. At first, people assumed the dog might have attacked the monkey, but there was no sign of hostility. In fact, every time someone tried to get close, the dog growled protectively, not allowing anyone near the injured monkey. He was acting like a guardian, not a threat. It seemed as though the monkey had fallen from a tree and injured his leg. Badly, unable to move, he had curled up in pain. And from somewhere, this dog had appeared out of nowhere, refusing to leave his side throughout the day. The villagers observed the dog licking the monkey's wounds, nudging him gently, and even bringing food from somewhere, bits of bread, scraps of roti, and sometimes even mango peels. The monkey, weak and hurt, allowed it. He never flinched, never resisted the dog's closeness. It was clear there was a trust forming, one that surprised everyone. Children came with fruits, trying to feed the monkey. The dog would watch them carefully, then, sensing no threat, step aside to let them help. Slowly, the fear turned to fascination. The village adopted the duo. Some brought water, others medicine. But every night it was the dog who slept curled beside the monkey, his body protecting the fragile creature from the cold. No one knew where the dog came from. He didn't belong to any household. People started calling him Sharu, and the monkey, now named Ramu, became the center of affection. But the bond between Sharu and Ramu was the most touching. It was as if fate had thrown these two together. Four-legged guardian, the other a broken spirit. Sharu didn't just guard Ramu, he encouraged him. When Ramu tried to crawl, Sharu would stand nearby, offering his back as support. With time, Ramu's wounds began to heal. But the emotional wound, the fear of falling, the pain of helplessness, stayed in his eyes. Only Sharu could understand that pain. Maybe he too had felt abandonment once. Maybe that's why he didn't leave. Then came a day when the villagers saw something they never expected. Ramu, still limping, climbed onto Sharu's back. The dog didn't resist. He stood still and began walking, letting the monkey ride him like a wounded prince. That moment broke hearts and brought tears. These were not just animals. These were souls connected beyond species, bound by empathy. Word spread beyond the village. A journalist from the nearby town came and wrote an article. Photos went viral. People from cities came to see the pair. But nothing disturbed the balance between Sharu and Ramu. They remained inseparable. Sharu had now become more than just a stray dog. It was a symbol of silent compassion, of unspoken promises. Ramu, once frail and hopeless, had started to gain strength. His limbs still trembled, and his jumps were small, but his spirit had returned. Yet, what remained constant was his dependency on Sharuna, out of weakness. But trust. One afternoon, the duo was spotted near the village pond. Sharu had jumped into the shallow water, barking and trying to catch fish. Ramu, perched on a low branch, watched with curious eyes. When Sharu brought him a small fish, Ramu didn't eat it, but held it, sniffed it, and let it go. The dog wagged his tail. It was as if they were playing a game no human could understand. As the days passed, the villagers noticed something even more heartwarming. Ramu had begun to care for Sharu in return. If Sharu was lying down, tired, Ramu would sit close, grooming his fur with his tiny hands. When Sharu coughed once during the night, Ramu cried out and tried to wake him up. They had become each other's healers. One night, heavy rain flooded the village outskirts. The banyan tree, their favorite spot, was surrounded by rising water. Sharu was seen dragging branches and leaves to make a dry area for Ramu. He stood, guard in the rain for hours, while the monkey slept under the little shelter. The villagers were in awe. Some cried. No one had ever seen this kind of love, not in their homes, not in their families. The next morning, an animal rescue team arrived. Informed by a viral video someone had posted, they wanted to take Ramu for full treatment. But when they tried to separate the two, Sharu growled. Ramu clung to Sharu, trembling. The team understood. They agreed to take both. At the shelter, Ramu received proper medical care. His bones were scanned, wounds treated. Sharu stayed beside him throughout, refusing to eat unless Ramu was fed first. Even the doctors couldn't believe what they were witnessing. It was as if Sharu had made a silent vow, a promise of life. Weeks passed. Ramu could now walk fully. He even climbed small trees again, but he never left Sharu's side. Sharu, now groomed and healthier still, walked like a guardian, always scanning the surroundings when Ramu climbed trees or moved far. They were eventually offered a permanent home at an animal sanctuary. But the villagers didn't want to lose them. They had become the heart of the village. After some discussion, the rescue team agreed to build a small enclosure within the village, a place where Sharu and Ramu could live safely, with free access to the surroundings they loved. The village transformed. People started treating stray animals better. Children were taught about kindness through the story of Sharu and Ramu. A mural of them was painted on the school wall with the words, "Real love doesn't ask for species." Months turned into a year. Sharu and Ramu became legendary. Their story was printed in newspapers, shared on television, and even became part of a school textbook. But to them, nothing changed. They were still just two friends, bound not by blood, but by something even deeper. One morning, Sharu seemed weaker. He was old now, and his steps slower. Ramu noticed it immediately. He stopped climbing, stopped playing, and began spending all his time grooming Sharu, bringing him food and sleeping wrapped beside him. The protector had become the protected. Sharu's health began to decline. The vet said it was natural age. Perhaps years of starvation from his earlier life catching up. But Ramu didn't let him go easily. He sat beside him all day, eyes filled with sorrow, as if remembering every moment Sharu had carried him. On one quiet night, with stars spread across the sky in the village, silent in sleep, Sharu let out a soft breath. Ramu nuzzled close, held his body tight, and stayed still. The next morning, the village gathered silently. No one spoke. Children placed flowers. Elders wept. Sharu was buried under the banyan tree where he had first protected Ramu. A small stone marked the place. Here rests Sharu, the dog who taught us how to love. But Ramu did something no one expected. He didn't leave the grave. Day after day he sat there. He refused food. He barely moved. It was as if his soul had paused. The villagers tried everything. Music, fruits, toys, nothing worked. Then one day, a child brought a small puppy to the grave. The puppy wagged its tail and nuzzled Ramu gently. For the first time in days, Ramu moved. He touched the puppy's head and held him close. The cycle of compassion had begun again. Sharu had gone, but his love had planted a seed in Ramu. Time passed. The village now had a statue of Sharu and Ramu near the temple, two friends in stone, immortalized in love. Ramu, older now, was still seen with the little puppy who had become his shadow. And just like Sharu once did, Ramu protected. The pup fed him and let him ride on his back. Tourists came to see them. Documentaries were made. But no one could ever fully capture what Sharu and Ramu had shared. It wasn't just about kindness. It was about recognizing pain in another and choosing to carry it without asking for anything in return. As Ramu aged, he became a teacher. Other animals gravitated towards him, guided injured birds, played with kittens, and once even helped a calf find its mother. He had inherited Sharu's heart. When Ramu finally passed away years later, he was buried beside Sharu. Flowers were laid. Bells rang. The whole village stood in silence. Some cried. Some smiled. But all knew they had witnessed something holy. In its own way, now, every year on the day, Sheru first protected Ramu. The village holds a day of kindness. Children feed strays. Elders share the story again. And under the banyan tree, 2 small graves remind the world of the day a dog gave. Support to an injured monkey and changed an entire village forever.